He built a 3,200 crore empire with cold hands and colder instincts. He lost it in a single night. And in a schoolteacher's kitchen in Bandra, chopping onions badly, burning dal, learning that 3 whistles means the gas goes off, he found the one thing 15 years of winning had never given him. This is not a story about a man who got his empire back. This is a story about a man who stopped needing it. The night Arjun Malhotra's empire died, it rained. Not the polite, apologetic drizzle that Mumbai sometimes offered in March, but a full-throated monsoon-style downpour that arrived months ahead of schedule, as if the sky had been personally briefed on what was about to happen and decided to set the mood. Arjun was in his 43rd floor office in the Malhotra Tower when his phone began to ring in a way that phones only ring when something is catastrophically, irreversibly wrong. The first call was from Vikram, his CFO. The second was from his lawyer, Desai. The third was from a number he didn't recognize, and he almost didn't answer it, but something, instinct, perhaps, or the small animal part of the brain that senses predators in tall grass, made him pick up. Mr. Malhotra. The voice was dry and bureaucratic. This is Deputy Commissioner Noik from the Enforcement Directorate. We are currently executing an attachment order on your primary accounts under the Foreign Exchange Management Act. A formal notice will reach your registered address by morning. I suggest you contact your legal team. He didn't remember hanging up. He remembered standing at the floor-to-ceiling window, watching Mumbai's 10 million lights smear in the rain, and thinking, with the strange clinical detachment of a man in shock, so this is how it ends. He was 39 years old. He had built Malhotra Capital from a 40 Indian rupees lakh loan taken against his mother's flat in Bandra to a 3,200 Indian rupees crore diversified holding company with interests in real estate, logistics, and fintech. He had been on the cover of Forbes India twice. He had once made a junior associate cry in a boardroom over a decimal point error and felt nothing except a vague satisfaction. His enemies, and there were many, because powerful men always have many enemies, it is one of the perks of the position, had been patient. Sethi had taken 3 years to build the case. He had used Arjun's own lieutenant, Prakash, who had apparently been feeding documents to Sethi's lawyers since 2021. The financial irregularities were real. Arjun had never been a saint about regulatory boundaries. But the surgical precision of the timing, every account frozen simultaneously, every asset tagged before Arjun could move a rupee, that was personal. By midnight, his black Audi was towed from the basement parking. His corporate credit cards declined at the fuel pump around the corner. His apartment in Worli, a triplex with a rooftop pool and a view that had cost 11 crores, was under attachment. His PA, Reema, who had worked with him for 6 years, stopped answering his calls after the 4th attempt. He stood on the pavement outside his own building, in the rain, holding a leather duffel bag containing 2 suits, a laptop, which he quickly discovered had been remotely locked by the IT team under new legal instructions, 12,000 Indian rupees in cash from his wallet, and a photograph of his mother, the same woman whose flat he had mortgaged to begin all of this, who had died 4 years ago and was therefore mercifully spared from watching what happened next. He had nowhere to go. His father's brother, Suresh Malhotra, lived in Andheri. Arjun had not spoken to him in 7 years, since a property dispute over their grandmother's house. He could not go to his friends, they were colleagues, associates, people whose WhatsApp messages he was already not receiving. He could not go to a hotel, he had no credit card and 12,000 Indian rupees would not survive 3 nights at anything within his dignity to enter. He sat on a bench in the lobby of a cafe coffee day near Haji Ali for 4 hours. He drank 2 cups of filter coffee. He watched the rain. He thought about calling Sethi and begging, and then he thought about what Sethi's face would look like when he did, and he put his phone down. Around 3 a.m., a man at the adjacent table left a newspaper. Arjun picked it up, because there was nothing else to do. He flipped through it mechanically, politics, cricket, a story about a water tanker scam in Dharavi, and then his eyes snagged on something in the classifieds at the back. Domestic helper wanted. Live-in position. Cooking, cleaning, general household management. Bandra West. Immediate joining. Salary 15,000 Indian rupees per month. Contact Nisha Sharma, 98XXXXXXXX. He stared at it for a long time. He had never cooked a meal in his adult life. He had never cleaned a bathroom. He had shouted at housekeepers in hotel suites for leaving the towels folded the wrong way. But the address was in Bandra West, near his mother's old neighborhood. And the name, Nisha Sharma, was not one he recognized, which meant she likely did not recognize his. And 15,000 Indian rupees was 15,000 Indian rupees. More than money, though, there was something else. A calculation that his survivor's brain was running without his conscious permission. If Sethi's people were looking for him, and they would be looking, because there were pending depositions and legal hearings and the ED did not enjoy when accused parties became suddenly untraceable, they would look in hotels, in airport lounges, at his known associates' addresses. They would not look in a schoolteacher's spare bedroom in Bandra. He saved the number and, as the cafe opened for the morning, he called. The interview was conducted in a first-floor flat on Nargis Road on a Tuesday morning, and Arjun arrived wearing his least expensive suit with the tie removed, carrying a story he had constructed on a park bench with the focus and precision he had once applied to quarterly projections. His name, for all purposes, was Arun Kumar. He was from Nagpur. He had worked for 3 years as a household manager for a family in Pune who had relocated to Canada. He had no references because the family had left in a hurry. He was quiet, hardworking, and available immediately. He had rehearsed it 20 times. He was, by any measure, an excellent liar. He had presented fabricated growth projections to investors, restructured debt in ways that appeared legal and weren't, and convinced a regulatory board once that a subsidiary's losses were accounting anomalies. Lying to a school teacher should have been nothing. The door opened. Nisha Sharma was not what he expected, though he later could not have articulated what he had expected. She was about 32 or 33, with dark eyes that had the quality of noticing things, wearing a cotton salwar kameez that she had clearly been ironing when the doorbell rang because she was holding the iron in her left hand. Her hair was pulled back imperfectly, the kind of imperfect that isn't calculated, just genuinely unbothered. There was chalk dust on her right forearm. She looked at him with the frank, appraising expression of a woman who has spent years assessing what 14-year-olds are trying to get away with, and said, "You're overdressed for a domestic helper interview." "I came from another interview," Arjun said. Which was technically not a lie. She let him in. The flat was small, not by poverty but by choice, he sensed. Clean in the way that suggested genuine habits rather than recent performance. Books everywhere, on shelves, on the kitchen table, in a stack beside the single sofa. There were drawings on the refrigerator that appeared to be made by students, not her own children. He saw no evidence of children. The walls were painted a particular shade of yellow that was either charming or aggressive depending on your mood. She set the iron down and sat across from him at the kitchen table, and he became immediately aware that she was the kind of person who gave interviews like she was the one in the powerful position, which, of course, she was. "Arun Kumar," she said, reading from the brief message he had sent. "Nagpur." "Yes." "Why Mumbai?" "Opportunities," he said. "Tell me about your last job." He told her the prepared story. She listened without interrupting, which he found vaguely unnerving. Most people filled silence. She had a notepad in front of her and she wrote things on it. He could not see what. "Can you cook?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "What can you cook?" A pause. "Rice. Dal. Eggs." He had seen eggs cooked. He was reasonably confident about the process. "That's it. I learn quickly." She studied him. He met her gaze because he had been trained, in 1,000 negotiations, never to look away first. But there was a difference between boardroom eye contact, which is territorial, and this, which was simply observational. She was not trying to dominate him. She was trying to read him. The distinction unsettled him in ways he couldn't name. "You've never done this work before," she said. "I have." "No, you haven't." She said it without cruelty. "You're holding yourself like someone who's used to giving instructions, not receiving them. Your hands are too smooth for someone who's been doing household work for 3 years. And you keep glancing at the bookshelves." She paused. Not in a judgmental way. More like, surprised. He said nothing. "I'm not asking you to explain yourself," she said. "Everybody has a story. Whatever yours is, I don't actually care, as long as you're not dangerous and you're willing to work." She tapped her pen on the notepad. "My mother had knee surgery 2 months ago. She'll be staying with me from next week for recovery. I have a full teaching schedule. I'm at St. Anne's, STD 9 and ex-Hindi and social studies, and I cannot manage the cooking and the errands and the medicines and everything else alone. This isn't a glamorous job. I need someone reliable. That's it." "I'm reliable," he said, because despite everything, in this specific moment, he believed it was true. "I pay 15,000, cash. You'll have the back room. Vegetarian cooking only. I'll teach you the recipes if necessary. I don't want anyone coming in and out of the flat. I have neighbors who talk." She looked at him one last time. "You start Friday?" "I can start today," he said. She looked at him for a moment longer than was comfortable. Then she pushed a spare key across the table. "The grocery list is on the counter," she said, picking up her iron and walking back to the bedroom. "Don't buy the expensive tomatoes. The vendor on the corner near the bus stop is fine." Arjun Malhotra, the most feared CEO in Mumbai, picked up a grocery list and went to find the tomato vendor near the bus stop. The first week was humiliating in ways he had not anticipated. He burned the dal on day one. Not slightly burned, catastrophically, alchemically transformed into something black and acrid that clung to the bottom of the pot and required 40 minutes of soaking to remove. Nisha came home, smelled it from the stairwell, and stood in the kitchen doorway looking at the pot with the expression of a woman recalibrating her expectations downward. "Pressure cooker," she said, pointing. 3 whistles. Then gas off. "I used the regular pot." "I can see that." She took off her bag, rolled up her sleeves, and made rice and curd for dinner in 15 minutes while he watched. She didn't explain her movements, she just moved, with the economy of someone who has done the same actions thousands of times and stopped needing to think about them. The kitchen felt different when she was in it. Inhabited. The second disaster was the mopping. He used too much water, and the wooden threshold at the bathroom door swelled. She noticed it the next morning and said nothing, which was somehow worse than if she had said something. He began paying attention. He watched how she organized the kitchen, everything with logic, the masalas in order of frequency of use, the pressure cooker lid stored upside down on the cooker itself. He watched how she managed her time. She woke at 5:45, made her own tea, graded papers for 40 minutes, left by 7:30. She came home at 4:30 unless there was a parent-teacher meeting. She ate dinner at 7:30. She read until 10:30. She slept. This routine had the quality of a well-made thing, crafted through years of intention and self-knowledge. Arjun, who had for 15 years lived in a chaos of meetings and calls and flights and late-night deals and had called it vitality, found himself strangely envious of the clean geometry of her days. Her mother, Savitri Sharma, arrived the following Wednesday. Savitri was 64, with a knee brace and an opinion on everything. She had grown up in Varanasi, had strong views on the correct way to make poha. It must sit and soften, not be stirred immediately, and called Arjun Beta within 10 minutes of meeting him, which was the first time anyone had called him that since his mother died, and he had to turn away and pretend to look for something in the cabinet. Savitri watched him cook with the unvarnished commentary of a woman who had nothing to lose. "Too much oil. You're not letting the onions brown properly. Where did you learn to chop? A construction site." He absorbed it. He adjusted. He got better. He got better faster than he expected, actually, and later he would understand why. For the first time in his adult life, failure had immediate, visible, textured consequences. In business, a bad decision took months to surface through balance sheets and quarterly reports. Here, if the poha was wrong, everyone tasted it. The feedback loop was brutal and clarifying. By the end of the second week, the dal was acceptable. By the end of the third, Savitri told him, with the air of someone conferring a great honor, that his tomato raisin was not bad. He had expected boredom. Instead, he found a different kind of time. At Malhotra Capital, time had been a commodity, parceled, fought over, never sufficient. Every hour had a cost and therefore a pressure. Here, the morning had a different texture. He swept the flat as the sun came in sideways through the kitchen window. He hung Nisha's washed dupattas on the line on the small balcony and watched the street below, the dabba vendor setting up, the school children in uniform pelting each other with eraser caps, the old man from the ground floor who brought his newspaper to the same bench every morning with the seriousness of a religious observance. Mumbai, viewed from 43 floors, was a circuit board, illuminated, abstract, a system you managed. Mumbai from a first-floor balcony in Bandra was something else entirely. It smelled of petrol and jasmine garlands. It was loud with specific human sounds, arguments, laughter, someone's pressure cooker, a wedding song from 3 streets away. It was, he was startled to discover, alive in a way the 43rd floor had never suggested. He began to notice things he had never noticed before. That the vegetable vendor on the corner, Ramu, supported an extended family of at least 7 from a handcart that did perhaps 1,500 Indian rupees in business on a good day. That Savitri took her pain medication at 9 a.m. and again at 9 p.m. and never complained to Nisha about the knee, only to Arjun, because she didn't want to worry her daughter. That the building's security guard, Pramod, was studying for a competitive exam in his booth every evening and would be embarrassed if he mentioned it. He started helping Pramod with the general knowledge sections when he had time. He started buying Romu's tomatoes regardless of whether Nisha had specified to, because the man clearly needed the business. These were not strategic acts. He did not calculate their return. He did them because they were there to be done, and for the first time in his life, that was sufficient reason. He and Nisha did not talk much, at first. She was not unfriendly, but she was contained, a woman who had made peace with her own company and was not performing openness for its strangers' benefit. She answered questions directly. She said thank you when he made tea without being asked. She left him notes when she would be home late. She did not pry. He was grateful for this. He was also, slowly, in ways he didn't examine immediately, looking forward to the 4:30 sound of her key in the lock. She brought the world in with her. Not deliberately, she wasn't a talker, not the way some teachers are, who turn everything into a lesson. But things emerged. A student who was brilliant but whose parents were pulling her out to get married at 16. I'll fight it, Nisha said, not to him particularly, just to the kitchen. I've written to the principal. I'm going to the girls' house on Saturday. A bureaucratic battle with the school administration over the cost of textbooks. The particular exhaustion of caring about 32 14-year-olds when the system was designed to make you not care. He listened. He made tea. He said, one evening, without planning to, what did the principal say? She looked up from her papers. She seemed briefly surprised that he'd been paying attention. That it's not the school's business. And you disagree. Obviously I disagree. It's entirely the school's business. We're the first place that girl goes every day. If we pretend what happens to her outside our walls isn't connected to what happens inside them, she stopped. Sorry. You probably don't want to hear about this. I do, he said. She looked at him again, that reading look she had. Then she continued, and they talked for 40 minutes, and this became a new routine, quietly, without either of them announcing it. He told her nothing true about himself. He could not. But he found, strangely, that in the absence of his history, his status, his story, he was forced to offer only his actual thoughts. What he actually believed. What he actually noticed. These were not things he had practiced much. She disagreed with him often. She did it without sharpness but without apology, the habit of someone who had been a student long enough to know that disagreement is how thinking happens. He had not been disagreed with sincerely in years. The people around him had been too invested in his approval to give him honest resistance. He found he liked it. More than liked it. 6 weeks in, he made a mistake. He was cleaning the flat when he found, on the kitchen shelf behind a stack of notebooks, a folder from a microfinance application. Inside were the documents Nisha had submitted for a 2 Indian rupees lakh loan, to, according to the application form, purchase a second-hand car for the commute to a second evening teaching job she was considering in Andheri. The loan had been rejected. The rejection letter had the bland cruelty of bureaucratic language, insufficient collateral, irregular income trajectory. He sat with it for a moment. In a previous life, he would have solved this in 10 minutes, a call, a transfer, a favor called in. He had given larger sums to industry events as sponsorships without thinking about it twice. 2 Indian rupees lakh was what he had once spent on a business dinner. He could not do anything now. He had 4,200 Indian rupees left from his original 12,000 Indian rupees after contributing to groceries when Nisha had been short 1 week. He had nothing to offer except the fact of noticing. But he noticed. He noticed that Nisha left for school at 7:30 and came back at 4:30 and graded papers until 10:30, and that the only indulgence in the flat was a small collection of paperback novels, most of them borrowed from the library. He noticed that she bought the cheaper vegetables and the mid-range masalas and the store-brand toothpaste, not from carelessness but from careful, ongoing calculation. He noticed that she never bought anything for herself without apparent consideration, and that she had been wearing the same 2 pairs of chappals since he arrived. And he noticed, with a clarity that felt like something being shown to him rather than figured out, he had spent 15 years accumulating and had never once considered what it cost. Not financially, the financial costs he had calculated obsessively. The other costs. The costs to people like Ramu, whose land he might have once rezoned. The costs to people like Nisha, whose loan applications were rejected by banks he had once sat on the board of. He put the folder back carefully where he had found it. He went to the kitchen and made chai, and when Savitri came in to complain that he was using too little ginger, he was using the correct amount of ginger. This was simply Savitri's way of engaging. He was almost glad for the interruption. Nisha found out on a Tuesday evening in the 2nd month, and it was his own fault. She had come home early, a teacher's meeting cancelled, and found him at the kitchen table. He had bought, on impulse, a copy of the Economic Times that morning from a street-side vendor, because he had been without financial news for 2 months and the habit was stronger than the caution. He had been reading it with the full attention of his professional brain, noting the interest rate movement, mentally constructing what it meant for certain debt instruments, running analysis as naturally as breathing. He heard the key and shoved the paper under some grocery bags. Not fast enough. She set her bag down, looked at the paper, looked at his expression, and sat down across from him in a way that was very familiar to him now, the patient, waiting stillness of a woman who gives you the rope to hang yourself and calls it a conversation. "You were reading that like it meant something specific to you," she said. "I was just." "You were analyzing it." She tilted her head. "People who've worked in domestic service for 3 years don't read the business section like that." He said nothing. "Arjun," she said. And then, more quietly, "or whoever you are." The silence in the kitchen had a particular quality. Outside, a crow was arguing with itself on the window ledge. The pressure cooker on the stove was building toward its first whistle. "I'm not dangerous," he said. "I know," she said, and somehow that was the most complicated thing she had said in 2 months, because it meant she had been sitting with the question for a while and had already arrived at the answer. She went to the bookshelf in the living room and came back with something. A magazine. She set it on the table between them. It was the November 2022 issue of Forbes India. The cover featured a man in a very expensive suit, standing in front of a floor-to-ceiling window with Mumbai behind him. The headline read, "Malhotra's Billions, How One Man Built India's Most Aggressive Conglomerate." He looked at the magazine. He looked at her. "I found it 2 weeks ago," she said. "I was looking for something to use in class, an article about business ethics, and I recognized you. But she stopped. Smoothed her palm flat on the table. "I kept waiting for you to tell me. I couldn't." "Why?" "Because if you knew, you would have." He stopped. "What?" "Asked him to leave? Called someone?" He wasn't sure, actually, what he'd been afraid of. Perhaps that she would look at him differently. That he would become, again, what he used to be rather than what he was trying to be here. "I was afraid you'd ask me to go." She looked at him for a long moment. "I'm asking you now," she said. "Tell me what happened. Honestly." So he told her. He had never, in 2 months of conversations, spoken about himself. He had commented, observed, listened, disagreed, occasionally made her laugh with dry observations about Savitri's relationship with his cooking. But he had never told his own story. Now it came out in the blunt, factual way of something that had been under pressure. The enforcement directorate, the frozen accounts, the night in the rain, the newspaper classifieds, the bench in cafe coffee day at 3 a.m. She listened the way she always listened, fully, without rushing to respond. "Why the fake name?" she asked. "Because I was afraid." She seemed to weigh this. Of Sethi? Of Sethi. Of the hearings. Of, he stopped again. Of who I was. Of someone looking at me and only seeing that. He touched the magazine cover without looking at it. Of being that again. "That person on the cover," she said slowly. "Is that who you were?" "Yes." "And who are you now?" He genuinely didn't know how to answer this, and he told her so, and she nodded as if this was the most honest thing anyone had said to her in a long time. The pressure cooker whistled once, twice, 3 times. He got up. Turned off the gas. Because 3 whistles was right, and he knew that now. She didn't ask him to leave. She thought about it. He could see her thinking, in the days after the conversation. She was not a woman who moved through the world carelessly. She weighed things. She had been let down before, he intuited, though she never said it explicitly. There was a certain self-sufficiency in her that wasn't coldness but had the shape of someone who learned not to rely on others the hard way. But she didn't ask him to leave. What changed was the quality of their conversations. They stopped being the gentle, bounded exchanges between employer and employee and became something less defined. She told him about her father, an idealistic school teacher who had remained idealistic until the end, which had cost the family financial security but given her something harder to name. She told him about the fiancé, 6 years ago, who had left when she refused to quit teaching. He said it wasn't real work, she said, not with bitterness but with the slight amazement of someone who still can't believe that was said out loud in a real conversation. I said I disagreed. He left. And I kept teaching. Good, Arjun said. She raised an eyebrow. That's it? Just good? I mean, obviously. What else would you have done? Compromised, she said. Like most people would have. You wouldn't. How do you know? He thought about it. Because you're fighting for that girl with the parents who want to pull her out of school. Because you wrote to the principal and you're going to the family's house. Because you bought a second textbook set with your own salary for a student whose parents couldn't afford it. Yes, I saw the receipt in the bag. Because, he stopped. He had been going to say something about the loan rejection, and she would know he had seen the folder, and that was perhaps too much. Because that's who you are. She was quiet for a moment. You're very different, she said, from the person on that magazine cover. I know. What changed? You, he said. And then, quickly, because it came out sounding like something other than what he meant, this life. Ramu and Pramod and your mother and the three-whistle dal and the fact that your kitchen shelf is better organized than my entire former company. She laughed at that, a real laugh, the kind that crinkled the corners of her eyes. He was in serious trouble. The message came on a Friday afternoon, while Arjun was stringing beans on the balcony and Savitri was asleep and Nisha was at school. It was from a number he didn't recognize, but the content was unambiguous. We know where you are, Malhotra. Come in. The hearing is next week. If you run, we add obstruction. If you cooperate, Sethi's lawyers may have a deal. Your choice. D. He stared at the message for a long time. D was almost certainly Desai, his own lawyer, which meant even Desai had flipped, or had been pressured, which was more likely. Desai was not a brave man. He could run. He had been thinking about it, distantly, as a theoretical option. He had begun, quietly, to put together a picture of what survival might look like. He had a contact in Singapore, old enough and obscure enough that Sethi wouldn't have reached him. With some funds transferred through a route that technically no longer existed but whose pattern he knew by heart. He stopped this thought. He stopped it because of what it meant. Going back down that road, the calculations, the routes, the survival at all costs thinking, meant becoming that person again. The man who used people as instruments, who saw the world as a board and himself as the player. He had spent 2 months being someone different and he could feel the difference in his body, in the quality of his sleep, in the fact that when he strung beans on a balcony in Bandra he was not somewhere else in his head. But there was a second reason he stopped. If Sethi's people knew where he was, the next step was surveillance on this address. And then someone would come to this address. And then Nisha's home, Nisha's life, her mother, her careful organized kitchen, her fight for a girl whose parents wanted to pull her out of school, would be entangled in something she had nothing to do with. He could not allow that. He thought for a long time. He thought about his mother, and about the flat in Bandra that he had mortgaged and then bought back for her when he could and then lost again when she died and left it to him in a will he had never contested, because what was the point? He thought about the junior associate who had cried in the boardroom and whom he had never apologized to, whose name he still remembered, Kavya Menon, now working for a firm in Bengaluru, based on a LinkedIn search he'd done on Nisha's phone when she was asleep one night, just to check she was all right. He thought about the person he was when Nisha handed him a key across a kitchen table and said the grocery list is on the counter without caring about his history or his assets, just his presence in this specific moment and whether it would be reliable. He thought about what it meant to protect something rather than possess it. Then he made a call. He called Mehta. Sandeep Mehta was 72, semi-retired, and had been Arjun's mentor during the first years of building Malhotra Capital, before Arjun had outgrown mentorship and stopped needing it, or thought he had. Mehta had a legal and financial reputation that was both old school and immaculate. He had never operated in grey areas and had, once, gently told Arjun that his methods were going to catch up with him. Arjun had smiled and said he appreciated the concern and had not listened. Beta, Mehta said, on the second ring, because this was the kind of man he was, answered the phone, used a warm greeting, unchanged regardless of what had happened between calls. Where are you? Bandra, Arjun said. I need help. I know. I've been waiting for you to call. What Mehta had been quietly assembling, because Mehta, unlike Arjun, had not wasted the last 2 months, was a counter case. Because Arjun's financial violations, while real, had been not only Arjun's. Sethi's own company had been involved in the same regulatory grey areas. The difference was that Sethi had used Prakash to build the case against Arjun first. Mehta had, over the previous 8 weeks, gathered counter-documentation with the meticulous care of an old man who had no deadlines and nothing to prove. The ED hearing is Tuesday, Mehta said. If you appear voluntarily, with full documentation and a statement of cooperation, Sethi's deal evaporates. He needs you on the run, that's his leverage. If you show up, it flips. What about my accounts? Some will be unfrozen. Not all, not immediately. You're looking at 18 months of legal proceedings. A pause. You'll survive them, Arjun. But you'll come out smaller. How much smaller? Meaningfully. He was quiet. Arjun, Meta said. What's actually giving you pause? He thought of the key on the kitchen table. The 3-whistle dial. The chalk dust on a forearm. The sound of a lock at 4:30. I need to handle something before Tuesday, he said. Locally. Be careful, Meta said. And Arjun, for what it's worth. Whatever you've been doing these past 2 months. Whatever it was. It sounds, from the way you're talking, like it did you good. He didn't respond to this. He thanked Meta and ended the call. Then he went inside and started cooking dinner, because it was 6:30 and Nisha would be home at 7, and the dowel needed its 3 whistles. He told her that evening. All of it this time, not just the fall but what came before it. The full account of Malhotra Capital's regulatory shortcuts, the practices he had justified to himself as industry standard that were, in the light of Nisha's kitchen, simply wrong. Prakash's betrayal. Sethi's machinery. The hearing on Tuesday. Meta's plan. She listened without interrupting for a long time. When he finished, the kitchen was very quiet. You're going to appear, she said. It was not quite a question. Yes. That means that this ends. My being here. He said it plainly, because the one thing 2 months in this flat had given him was the inability to manage his words for effect. I wanted to tell you before anything happened. Before anyone came to the door. She looked at the table. Sethi's people could come here? I don't think so. Not now. I've made contact with my lawyer and the process is in motion. But I wanted you to know in case. I can handle it, she said, with a quiet firmness that he believed entirely. A silence. Not an empty one. Nisha, he said. She looked up. He had not prepared what came next. He had prepared the legal explanation, the logistics, the responsible adult plan. He had not prepared for the specific quality of her attention, that look she had, the one that had seemed like an assessment at the interview and was now, he understood, something else. Recognition. The particular kind that goes both ways. I came here running from something, he said. I didn't expect to find, he stopped. I don't know how to say what I found here without it sounding like I'm talking about you, and I'm trying not to reduce you to something that happened to me. She was very still. I'm talking about, he gestured, slightly helplessly, at the kitchen, the flat, the street outside. This. The way this feels. The way a day feels when it has a shape. When you can see what you've done in it. He paused. I was not a good person before. I want to be honest about that, with you especially. I was technically functional and enormously successful and not a good person. I made people cry in boardrooms. I mortgaged, he stopped again. Refocused. The point is, I'm going to come out of this smaller, financially. The old version of me would have considered that a catastrophe. I find that he met her eyes. I find that I don't, as much as I would have expected. She was quiet for a long time. Arun, she said, and then stopped, and corrected herself, Arjun. She said his real name carefully, like she was learning it in her mouth. What are you saying? I don't know exactly, he said. I know that Tuesday I have to go. I know that after Tuesday, things will be different and long, and I don't have the right to ask anything of anyone right now, especially not you. He looked at his hands on the table. I just didn't want to disappear. Not without. Don't, she said. He looked up. Don't disappear, she said. That's all I'm saying. Her voice was steady and measured. Do what you need to do on Tuesday. Face what needs facing. But don't, she stopped. Pressed her lips together. The boy who helps promote with his exam preparation. The one who buys Ramu's tomatoes when we don't need them, because he can see that Ramu needs it. The person who made my mother feel looked after without making her feel like a burden. She looked at him directly. That person. Don't let him disappear when you get the suit back. He looked at her for a long moment. I won't, he said. It was the most serious promise he had ever made. More serious than any contract, any deal, any binding agreement with penalty clauses and adjudication provisions. Because those were about self-interest, and this was about something else. Savitri Sharma emerged from the bedroom at this exact moment, with the exquisite timing of a woman who had heard enough of the conversation to have formed an opinion, and said, Is the dal ready or are we doing some more feelings first? Arjun stood up. 3 whistles ago, he said. Savitri sat down at the table. About time, she said, not specifying which thing she meant. He was at the Enforcement Directorate office at 9 a.m. on Tuesday. Mehta was with him, managing the legal proceedings with the composure of a man who had outlasted several crises of this type and expected to outlast several more. The documentation was in order. The voluntary cooperation letter was filed. The counter-documentation on Sethi's parallel violations was submitted simultaneously to a different regulatory body, which had the effect of not eliminating Arjun's case, but significantly recontextualizing it. Sethi's lawyers arrived at 10:30. There was a 30-minute recess. When the session resumed, the deal on the table had changed shape. It was not a triumph. Arjun had not expected a triumph. The assets under attachment would take 12 to 18 months to fully untangle. A significant portion of the Malhotra capital holdings would be sold in the settlement process. What would survive was smaller, a core fintech operation, some real estate, the Nagpur warehousing business that had been his first expansion outside Mumbai and which, for reasons mostly sentimental, he had run so conservatively that it was almost entirely clean. He would not be on the cover of Forbes India again. Not for a long time, perhaps not ever. He sat with Mehta over bad coffee in the ED waiting area at 1 p.m., and Mehta said, "You're taking this very well." "I'm taking it the way it should be taken," Arjun said. Mehta looked at him with the pleased assessment of a mentor watching a student finally demonstrate that the lessons landed. "Who was she?" "Sorry?" "Whatever happened in those 2 months," Mehta said mildly. "There was a woman involved. Men don't get this sensible on their own." Arjun said nothing, which Mehta understood as confirmation. He went back to Nisha's flat that afternoon. Not to stay, his presence there had served its purpose, and in any case the legal proceedings meant he would need to be findable and accounted for, which meant a real address, proper registration. He had arranged, through Mehta's office, a service department in Dada for the next 6 months. But he went back. He knocked. She opened the door. She was home early, he had texted ahead, which was something he had not had the option to do while maintaining his fiction, and she was wearing a different salwar kameez than usual, which he found himself noticing. Her hair was down. "How did it go?" she asked. "It went," he said. "I still have a company. Smaller. But mine." He paused. "The right things are gone. The wrong things are gone." He shook his head at himself. "I sound like a man who learned something." "You did," she said. Not unkindly. Savitri appeared behind her. "Are you staying for dinner?" "Auntie," Nisha began. "I made the rasam," Savitri said. "Better than him." "That's a very high bar," Arjun said. "Medium bar," Savitri said. He stayed for dinner. They sat at the small kitchen table, Savitri at the head, as she had apparently decided was her right, Nisha to his left, the window open and the evening light going gold over Narjisdat Road. Somewhere outside, the wedding from 3 streets away that had been going since Saturday was playing a song he didn't know. Over rasam and rice and a particularly good aloo sabzi, Savitri told a story about a neighbor in Varanasi who had won the state lottery and immediately renovated his house with such aggressive ambition that a wall fell on his uncle's buffalo. It was not immediately clear what point the story was making. The point was the story. Nisha caught his eye across the table. She was smiling in the way she smiled sometimes when she thought he wasn't looking, unguarded, fully present. He thought about the Forbes India cover and tried to remember what the man in that photograph had valued, and found it increasingly hard to reconstruct. After dinner he washed up. This was not a concession or a gesture. It was simply what you did after dinner. He left at 9. At the door, she said, "The fintech operation, is that the one in Andheri?" "Yes." He looked at her. "Why?" "I have a student. Brilliant girl. Father drives an auto. She wants to study commerce and her school keeps telling her the JE is the only worthwhile path." She said it in the matter-of-fact way of someone presenting facts rather than making a request. "She's going to need internships eventually. People who take her seriously. Send me her file," he said. "When the time comes." She nodded. "Nisha." He stopped. He had promised himself he wouldn't do this at a doorway, which was a terrible place for the things he wanted to say, but it appeared he was going to do it at a doorway regardless. "I know that right now I'm in the middle of a legal process. I don't have a clean history. I have several people who want me to suffer, some of whom have a fair point. I am not, objectively, Arjun," she said. "Recommendable." "Arjun." He stopped. "I know all of this," she said. "I read the Forbes article. I read 3 other articles. I know what Malhotra Capital was. I know what you did." She held his gaze. I also know what you did for Pramod's exam preparation. And Ramu's tomatoes. And my mother's knee, which you pretended not to notice bothering her so she wouldn't have to feel helped. She tilted her head. People are not their best moment. They're also not their worst. They're the direction they're moving in. He was very quiet. Come for dinner on Sunday, she said. Auntie will criticize the raisin. Obviously. Come anyway. He went down the stairs into the evening street. Ramu's cart was still there, being pushed home along the footpath, its daily work done. Pramod was in his booth with his notebook. The wedding song from 3 streets away had moved into a faster number, someone's joy spilling over in volume. He stood on the footpath for a moment, just standing, which was something he had learned to do in the past 2 months. Mumbai from a first-floor flat in Bandra was very loud and very small and very alive, and he was part of it in a way the 43rd floor had never permitted. He hailed an auto. Data, he said. The driver merged into traffic, one of 10 million. Malhotra Capital, the smaller, cleaner version, launched a financial literacy initiative for first-generation commerce students in June. It was Kavya Menon, now a senior consultant in Bengaluru, who reached out about it via email. She had read about the initiative in a business publication and thought it aligned with something she'd wanted to do for years. He hired her to run it without a formal interview, and then thought about the interview that hadn't been an interview in Nisha's kitchen and understood, at last, why that had been the right way to do it. The girl whose parents had wanted to pull her out of school, Divya, passed her Class X board exams in the top percentile and enrolled for her Class 11 in the commerce stream. Nisha attended the result day celebration, which was held in the family's building compound with tea and chakli and a hand-painted banner that said, in English, Our Star. She texted Arjun a photograph. He saved it in a folder. Savitri Sharma's knee recovered sufficiently for her to go back to Varanasi, which she did in August with significant fanfare and a firm announcement that she would return in December for the cold season, which was not up for discussion. Before she left, she told Arjun that his tomato raisin was, in point of fact, very good, and that he should stop pretending to defer to her opinion on it. I know a cook who knows what he's doing, she said. Don't play humble. He did not, in fact, reclaim his empire. What he built instead was a different kind of thing, smaller, slower, organized around questions of what it was for rather than how big it could get. The fintech operation did well. The Nagpur warehousing business, managed by a team he gave real authority to, did better. His name reappeared in business publications in the way that formerly spectacular figures reappear, with the interested, mildly retrospective tone of people watching a story that has taken a turn they hadn't predicted. He came for dinner on Sunday. And the Sunday after that. And the Sunday after that. Eventually he stopped leaving the way people stop needing to say certain things aloud because the living of them has said it instead. One evening in October, in the kitchen on Narjis Road, Nisha was reading a paper from a student who had written an unexpectedly nuanced essay about economic inequality, and she read a passage aloud without looking up, and he said she's right, actually, and they disagreed about whether the student had missed the counter-argument, and he made chai while they argued. And the light came through the kitchen window at the particular angle it came through in October evenings in Bandra, and outside Ramu was finishing the day's work on the corner, and Pramod was studying in his booth, and the city was its 10 million ordinary profound necessary selves. He was not afraid of being small. He was not afraid of being known. He was exactly, precisely, sufficiently where he was.